Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Saturday that we get to connect here on Masterpiece and talk about some of the things that really matter to us in our lives as immigrants here in the diaspora. So it could be you be in the UK, you could be in the US, anywhere you are. But welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're joining us, just make sure that you share, you like, and then you follow us on this page. Or if you're on YouTube, do the same thing as well. Subscribe and let's get started. Hey, my name is Tina, and I will be hosting this conversation for us today. So, the month of February is a love month, right? We all know that. But guess what? We're going to talk about communication, which is really the life of any love relationship. And how do we manage that? It is so interesting how sometimes communication does not work, and then it looks like it's nothing is happening, but a lot is happening. So today we are going to talk about crucial conversations. I am excited already, but let me introduce you to our guest for today. Her name is Shireen Walters. She has more than 15 years of experience in training and development across retail, technology, and healthcare. Her style is really bringing a lot of high energy and enthusiasm, and she works seamlessly with all levels of an organization. She blends her program management experience and master facilitation skills, and she's able to help numerous clients grow and develop their greatest asset, which is people. Shireen is going to bring to us, and you will see, an unmatched passion and focus on all her engagement. She is an ACC Associate Certified Coach with certification from the International Coaching Federation that she's able to deliver a unique training experience. So whether she's working with employees or with us today, anywhere she is, she's able to connect and she's able to build trust and relationship. She is someone that I have worked with in the past. I should divulge that secret, right? And she is a great person to know. She excels at both her personal, in-person and virtual delivery, and she's a very strong, person when it comes to leveraging innovation and creativity. Well, I am not going to give all of it away, but I am going to help me invite, Shireen here with a warm welcome and show her some love as we get started today. If you're on, I want to see some hearts, some emojis going out there to say, hey, welcome, Shireen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Shireen.
Hello, Tina. Good to see
Oh,
you.
good to see you. I am so thrilled that we get to connect on this platform. It is such an honor to host you. I'm just looking at how far we've come from colleagues to friends and just sitting here to talk about crucial conversations. I remember you thought this one, some time ago in a class I took, and I am excited that we can bring it to more people. So, welcome. Welcome to
Absolutely.
Masterpiece.
Thank you.
Well, so Shireen Walters, I tried to introduce you, and I'm sure I missed a few things. So I would like you to tell us who is Shireen in her own words, and then let's see if someone can identify a bit more than what I did, right?
Oh, geez, no problem. You did a fabulous job, I'm sure. So I am definitely, like you said, I love training. I love to deliver materials, whether it's virtual or in person. My favorite secret tip here is I do prefer in person. Why? Because I get
Yeah,
to meet and connect with
yes,
folks and talk on the
yes,
break. And through the
yes,
lens of our wonderful world of virtual, it's a little more challenging. I
yes.
yell, on the east coast of the United States, and so
Mm,
I've lived on the east coast all my life, actually, in terms of here in the United States. And I have three girls. See, you didn't tell them that part. I have three girls. I feel like telling about the three girls is a significant piece
it is a significant piece.
because it will tell you how much gray hair I have.
It is a significant thing, for sure.
For sure. But yes, that's just a little tidbit about me. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. I love the three girls because that is important. It's a crucial part of the conversation that we need to have as we're going along. But thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I didn't think you told us that you were born here in
No, I,
America.
no, I was not born here in the US. I was born in a small island called Jamaica.
Jamaica. So we get to go to Jamaica.
We get to
So
go to
for
Jamaica.
those of you who
See,
love to go to
we get to
Jamaica,
go to Jamaica right there.
I
Yeah,
know.
small little island.
Join, join the team. We are going on a Jamaica trip. So now, Shireen, you know Shireen. And if you are looking for someone that you know in Jamaica, you have one. But welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you, Shireen.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, so I think, I mean, when I was talking to you about crucial conversations, I was like, okay, what is it about crucial conversations? Like when you say crucial conversations, what comes to mind? Because I mean, I don't know. Like, well, I'll behave. I don't know, right? I don't
Yeah,
know what it is. But
yeah.
what is crucial conversation, Shireen?
That's a really good starting point, Tina, because a lot of times people have different definitions in their minds about what is a crucial conversation, right? And so the first thing that comes to mind for me, it's a difficult conversation, one that you don't want to have, one that you're shying away from, right?
Mhm.
Where there's three components that looking forward to June that we can dive in more if folks come back in June for those crucial
Right.
conversation tips. But there's three components, right? There's you and someone else have a differing opinion about something, but you
Mm,
also have emotions behind that differing opinion, and then the risks are high. Like, so it will hurt you or the other person if this happens or if you don't talk about it, right?
yeah.
So crucial conversations are those conversations that have those three elements in place. You're
Mm,
disagreeing, your emotions start to kick in, which we're human, it does. We tend to get hyped, or we walk away, or whatever that looks like, that emotion looks like. That's where the crucial conversations come in. But the main piece here, Tina, is we're stuck. Where are we stuck in our conversations? And that's where it might be a crucial conversation that you're either avoiding, or you thought you had it but it didn't go so well.
mm. So where we are stuck, huh? Because I think a lot of us are stuck, right? And for us, when it comes to us as immigrants, I think the challenges we've learned not to really have crucial conversations, like avoid them. So
Hmm.
here I am, you're telling me that we have to have these conversations, we have to uncover all the emotions behind them. And I'm not really ready to go there yet. So you
Yeah,
have to help me to understand like where I'm stuck. Like if I have
yeah,
a conversation at home that is getting heated, is that a crucial conversation? Or when
yeah,
does that conversation
yeah.
become crucial?
But let me address a point that you just made while you were describing the stuck, right? It's
Yeah.
why don't we have these conversations, and what is the impact of
Mm,
not having these conversations, right? So I know we're busy, like you said, our culture doesn't say we should have these conversations, but what
mhm,
is the negative impact of not having these conversations, right? We're too focused, or our goal, what we want is to just win. We just want to have our way and have the
yeah,
last word. And so we have to identify, why aren't we having these conversations? What am I afraid of? Or why is it not going well when I bring up, like you said, we're disagreeing at home and we're starting to butt heads and it's just getting heated? Why? Why is it getting so heated over whose turn it is to wash the dishes? Why are we arguing about that? And so we differ, but the emotions are so strong. And where are those emotions coming from? And that's what we need to identify and address, but we have to be willing and open to do that, which is why I say we're stuck. We don't want to open up that can of worms. We don't want to express our emotions. We don't want to look within to say, why am I angry right now about you not washing the dishes tonight or taking out the garbage? Or you said you were going to pick up the kids at 3 and it's now 4 o'clock and you didn't pick them up. Well, is that really what we're arguing about? Right. So that's, to me, Tina, we have to start from the foundation,
mm,
and I try to identify why am I having these disagreements? And then not only it's okay, and by the way, I'm not saying we shouldn't disagree. A healthy conflict is good.
that's
It's
good.
when the emotions turn us to a reptilian brain. I like to say, when we become, I like the Snicker commercial, when you're hungry, you're just not who you're not yourself anymore, right? So
Yeah,
when you find yourself needing a Snicker bar, why do you need a Snicker bar, right?
yeah.
Because you're getting worked up, and we need to figure out why. Why are you
Mhm.
getting going there?
I know. I think this is really good because there are times that I think I should have a crucial conversation, even with the kids, right? And I just skip it. And then later on, something else comes up, and then you yell. And it's really not about that. It's about the first one that I
Yes.
should have addressed that I did not. And now
Yes.
I'm sliding into this one, and I'm just trying to make a point. But
Yeah.
then it doesn't even make sense in what I'm trying
Yeah.
to do.
Because here's what happens. If we don't talk it out, we act it out. So because you didn't talk about the first one, it's building up, building up, building up. And then you find that you've reached your tipping point, and you're human. It's natural for you to just blow up because one, you're busy. You have so many things juggling at once. And here's this conversation that you ignored, and then another one and another one. So you're right in the chat. We have to be willing
Mm,
to have these crucial conversations. Why? Because the impact. What is the impact? So many times, Tina, people don't have crucial conversations because the impact, the
mm,
risk isn't quite there. So
mm,
is it really a crucial conversation?
mhm,
Maybe not. So my thing is, if the impact is going to let's see, interfere with your relationship, it's going to interfere with how you interact with the individuals around you, it's going to have people avoid you or be very cautious or timid around you, right? What's the impact to
mm,
you and the people around you? So thinking about the relationship. So two things that we talk about in crucial conversation, there are two R's: results and relationships. If you're
mm,
not seeing the results that you want, especially in a work context, you're avoiding the conversation at work because so and so didn't give you the project on time, or so and so, missed the deadline, and you don't want to talk about it. What's the results? And then the relationship piece. And I'm not talking besties. I'm not talking we got to be buddies, but I'm
no,
talking about how do we live,
get
coexist?
along. Get
How do we
along.
get along? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. So, Shireen, I think I'm going to go off a tangent here. It looks like you've got this thing nailed down, right? And it looks like it's already in your DNA to work through some of these already. And I'm not sure if it's something that I am not getting because it is hard to do. So how have you been able to just get your arms around it so nicely, right?
Took practice. Took many, many years. So I forgot to tell you part. So I have three kids. I didn't make those three kids on my own. I do have a husband. And one of the things I want to share with you, Tina, is that it takes a lot of practice and also awareness.
Mm,
So I'm so proud of you and the team behind this, putting this out there for folks, because first step is self-awareness.
yeah.
First step is knowing that you can have these conversations. You
Mm,
don't have to avoid them. Our natural innate style when it comes to conflict is a few things,
oh,
right? We have a few people who avoid, we have people who collaborate, we have people who forget the other one. There's another one, but we tend to either be passive, right? And we have people who are passive aggressive in our style of communicating, right?
mm,
And so we have to be recognized, we have to be willing to recognize what is my style, what is
right.
my go-to in terms of communication. So I brought up my husband for a reason. In the first like 10 years of our marriage, crucial
10
conversation.
years?
The first 10 years were rough, right? Because I didn't know these skills yet. I wasn't aware of these, so my style, my innate, my go-to style is to be passive. What do I mean by that? So
Mm,
that your viewers can understand. When someone uses a passive communication style, they choose to just let it go. They just let the other person have their way. So I'll give you a restaurant example. You go to a restaurant and the waiter says, hey, what do you want? You said, I want steak and potatoes. The steak comes back and it's raw. And what does a passive style do? Oh, it's okay. I'll just, cut around
how
the
many
edges
is
and
it?
eat what I can. That's a passive style. We don't really speak up. We just let it go. So in the first 10 years of my marriage, I was a passive communicator. I'm just like, okay, sure thing, no problem. Didn't really express what I want, and nothing about what my needs, right? So
Mm,
you find that in your conversations, it just doesn't go well. You're just not getting results. You're resenting the person, and that could be a
mhm,
side effect of not speaking up, right? So
right.
over the years, once I learned these tools about speaking up, being more assertive, and assertive, going back to the restaurant example, the steak comes and it's not what I want. Guess what an assertive communicator would do? Excuse me, waiter. I ordered, medium rare, and this looks very rare. Is it okay if you take that back and fix that? Yes, go, right? So an assertive person would speak up,
Mm,
but in a
mm,
respectful and honest way. And so once we become better communicators, we let's see, we adapt this mentality of I'm going to respect the person for who they are.
right.
I'm not trying to change them. Because
Mm,
at first I was trying to change my husband and like, why can't you say it this way? Why can't you do it this way? Why you gotta say it so mean? Right. And so I'm trying to change him, but not recognizing I need to respect him. And then the second part is I need to learn to understand the other person's point of
oh
view.
my. Oh
I know
my.
I've said a lot. I'll stop there.
Respect and understand. I think this is huge because a lot of us are not ready to understand. It's like, yeah, it's about me and me and me and me. But how do I respect and understand? So then when you're talking about crucial conversations, it's not like we're really yelling at the person or anything like that. It's really, having that ability to have a good conversation that is respectful, but at the
Mhm.
same time, both of you are win-win. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's it.
I
You hit
got
on
it.
the nail. You hit on the nail. It's having those difficult conversations, knowing that you're not in it to just win and get your way, but to hear the other person out. So a lot of times, crucial conversation is not about just you, or being assertive is not about just you blurting what you want, but you have to
Mm.
be humble enough and willing enough to hear the other person as well. So a key part of crucial conversations when you're going to have them is you have to be ready to listen,
Ooh,
because
ooh, ooh.
we're ready to like, well, I didn't like
Oh,
when you did that, I didn't like when you blah blah blah. Okay, pause, let the person share their view of how the situation played out for them. So now it's a dialogue. Dialogue is two people. Before it wasn't a dialogue, before it was just venting and going, yelling, but now it's a dialogue. Now if we're open to having a dialogue, then we can have crucial conversations.
ooh. If we are open to having a dialogue, then we can have a crucial conversation. Okay. So then in that case, if I do not want to have the dialogue, would I be able to have a crucial conversation? Like, let's say that in a case of a couple, and this is, the Valentine's month or the month of love. So let's talk about a couple, for instance. If it's more of we need to have a dialogue, one person is ready to have the dialogue, but then the other person doesn't want to have the dialogue. How does that work? Is that something that crucial conversation can still happen, or no, it wouldn't?
Absolutely. So crucial. So you said two couple of things, right? So we were willing to have a dialogue. Now there's the foundation of trust.
Hmm.
Do I trust your intentions, Tina? Do I trust that you have my best interest at heart? And so if I believe that what we're about to engage in this dialogue, if I believe that there's trust there and you're not here to hurt me or harm me or try to undermine me or whatever that is, or to any of those words, then I can have a dialogue with you because now I trust your intentions. So one of the things that we talk about in crucial conversation is how do we make it safe for
Hmm.
folks to want to have that dialogue. And I'm not talking about physical safety where I feel like you're going to hurt me physically, but it's that psychological safety.
Psychological safety.
Yes.
Hmm.
So if I know, so I can only pick on my husband for, just for the sake of this conversation, right? If I know that he has my best interest at heart, he could say probably the harshest things and I get it. I can absorb that feedback because I know he has my best interest at heart. How do I know that? Because his actions, his behavior, it has demonstrated that over time. So that trust is there. Is
Hmm.
think about feedback that you were able to take and it was really tough feedback. Think
Right.
about either in the workplace or from a parent or a grandparent or a relative, whoever. They gave you some really tough feedback, but you didn't get upset. You weren't angry. You didn't throw a fit. Why? Because you trusted the feedback from that person. Does that make sense, Tina?
Yes, 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 it does. I mean, when you have that trust. So now that we are thinking about that trust piece, and that brings me to the point like, okay, so if I have, I'm listening to you now, and I have some really crucial conversations that I have put away for years or months or days, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back and see how best I can have these conversations, and it's been eating me up, but I don't know how to start it. I don't know all these tools that you're saying. Where
Yeah.
do I start? Where do I start?
You start by acknowledging that, hey, we need to talk about X, right?
Mm,
And one of the things we talk about is sharing your good intent. Why do you want to talk about it? Why is it been in the back of your mind? Why is it been eating you up? Or you know that you need, so share your good intent. And one of the techniques that we use in sharing your good intent is this: you say what you don't intend, then you marry that with what you do intend. So, Tina, I don't want us to go down a rabbit hole about this from last week or the thing from yesterday. What I want us to focus on is the future. I want us to focus on, where do we go from here? How do we make it better? Is that all right? And Tina, you're probably like, sure, Shireen, let's talk about it. Sure. And then you could be like,
mm,
okay, so I've been thinking the way we went about blah, blah, blah didn't really work. And I'm thinking that we need to blah, 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 right? So I don't have a big scenario for you, but that's the idea. If the title of that chapter is called Start with Your Heart. And a lot of people smile and say, well, why would you say heart? Well, what are your intentions? What is your motive? What is
yeah,
your goal? And believe it or not, we're human. We're very smart creatures. We
yeah,
can tell if someone has bad intentions or good intentions.
right.
Right? We could see it immediately. Like some of us are so good at it. We can, as soon as you walk in a room, they could tell, right? Because they
Mhm.
could just immediately see coming off of you. But then some of us can't. So what we have to do is share that good intent up front, share our motive, share our objective. What is our goal? Say it out loud up front so the other person now can hear and understand that you're not coming to beat them down. You're not coming to hit. Use your husband for example. I'm
Right.
sure as soon as you walk up to your husband and say, "Hun, we need to talk." Oh, you know what goes on in his mind? I can't speak for your husband. I'm gonna make this up. He's probably thinking, "Oh my gosh, what did I do now? Oh my goodness, what did I forget to do?" Right? So immediately they're guessing as to what your
Right.
intentions are, and you now all you want to do is talk about the kids, pick up tomorrow or whatever. But he's not hearing that. He heard, I'm going to beat you upside the head right now because you did something wrong. So a
Right.
lot of times we need to, now if I were your husband, and he had that mentality, for you, Tina, it would be to share your good intent up front. Hey, hon, I know we talked about this last week and I just want to revisit it if it's okay. When we talk about whose turn it is to do whatever, I realize that it still didn't get done. And maybe we need to sit down and talk about it in more details. Like, just share it up front. What is it that you're trying to do? You're not trying to
Mm,
attack me. Some people even use the words. They're like, I'm not here to blame. I'm not here to attack you. I'm
mm,
not here to shame you. I'm not here to throw you under the bus. Some people actually verbalize what it is that they're not trying to do and then marry that with, here's what I'm trying to do. And keyword there, here's what I'm trying, because we're not perfect. At least I'm not. Maybe you
right.
guys are.
Right.
I'm not
No, no, no,
perfect.
no, we're
I
not
don't get it right all the
all
time.
the time. No. Mm-mm, we don't. So, Shireen, you're saying that this is all skills we can learn.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. It
I
is.
think I need it. I need it.
And it's practice, and it's, you know what, my other two, you probably like, Srini, you have too many words here, but you have to be deliberate
Mm,
and consistent. It's like a diet, right? The dreaded January morning, we're all saying, I'm gonna go on a diet, right? And then by March we
mm,
fall off the wagon. Because why? We weren't consistent and we weren't deliberate in our actions. So the
mm,
same with crucial conversations. You have to be committed to say, I want this relationship to work. I want to have a better communication style with this person. And that's what I committed to with my husband. So the first 10 years of our marriage, it was hard. But then after I figured out, okay, we can do this better. Oh my gosh, we can read each other better. I could, and if I sense that his intentions are off, I say it out loud. I'm like, well, it seems to me that you want X. And he's like, no, 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 no. That's not what my intentions were. This is what I want. And we're getting really in sync with communicating. There are days where I don't want to. don't get me wrong. There are days I don't want to talk about it. But, but then I think about what's the impact of not talking about it, right? Will it result in us going to bed angry? Will it result in us, me bringing it up a couple days later and he's like clueless about it? Because feedback should be timely, right? Feedback should be, at least close enough to when the event happened.
Right, right.
One
Well,
more point before you, one more
go
point.
ahead.
You mentioned something about why am I yelling at the person? A lot of times we're not yelling at the person, we're yelling about the situation or the behavior of the person. So a lot of times we don't separate the two and we attack the person when it's really not the person we want to attack, it's the behavior that we want to address.
Ooh, Shireen, I am so thankful. Hi, Susan. I see Susan Shaw on there. Um,
Hi, Susan.
I see Susan. She said, "This is great and necessary information." Absolutely. So, you know what? We are planning to have Shireen take us through this crucial conversation class. It's going to be a 3 week, session, but it will be every Saturday, 2 hours, and you have to be committed to that because we have received that, approval to be able to have this class happen. And I am excited to relearn it because it's just something that, like she said, practice, 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 especially when we are not used to, really using the skills that way. So I am thrilled. Hi, Zoe. Good to see you. It's really helpful. I have done crucial conversations and I still feel like I need to learn some more every day. So, we were talking about how do I start? And we said start with heart. Phew. Yeah. And this is where my heart is already either, you know, I'm upset and I am just trying to figure out how do I even start the conversation. But Shireen, there's something about crucial conversation that you have to get a hold of your own emotions. And you talked about it briefly and you said emotional intelligence. We'll have to do another class on that one. Emotional intelligence. It's a whole class. But how do I do it? I am upset. I'm in the moment. I want to give timely feedback. And you're saying start with heart. If I go right with my heart where it is, I don't think I'm going to get any results. So
Mhm.
again, back to where do I start
Yeah.
and how do I start?
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely spot on when you said I have to get my emotions in check, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things that we're going to talk about in June is the emotions piece. We spend at least, a chunk of time understanding where do our emotions come from. And
Mm,
so once you identify why are you worked up? So it's that internal dialogue. It's that,
mm,
like you said, emotional intelligence, that self awareness. And so once you identify where are those emotions coming from, then you need to manage those emotions. I like
mm,
to say your emotions tend to hijack your conversations. So you go into a conversation, you weren't crying before, but all of a sudden halfway through the conversation you're crying. That's the emotions trying to hijack it, right? So
right.
how do I start? I start with mastering my emotions, which we call mastering your stories. So there's this
Mm,
concept of we tell ourselves a lot of things that may or may not be accurate.
correct.
So what are the facts? And what did you see? What did you hear that led you to believe so
Mm,
and so? Right. And so the idea of starting with heart is understanding that where my emotions come from, how do I manage those emotions? And then I could go into a conversation. So I would never recommend, Tina, you go in a conversation when you're still worked up, when you're still angry, when you're still frustrated, when all those emotions are still reeling. They're like you're still angry about it. You need to get to a place where you say, okay, what is it that I really want?
mm,
What do I want for me? What do I want for this relationship? What do I want for the other person? So,
right.
for example, I was at a birthday party and the host was very upset that we were leaving early because they didn't anticipate us leaving early. Why? The birthday party started later than we expected, like an hour and a half later, but we had to go. And so the host was very angry with me at the time, and she was yelling and screaming in my face. Now,
Ooh.
what do you think? What would you do? Right? You'd be like yelling and screaming back at the person, like, don't talk to me like that. And fingers probably start pointing, and our emotions get the best
Oh,
of us,
you were with
right?
me. You're with me, sister.
Right. We wouldn't hold back, right? Because our human nature is for us to push back and attack back, right? But remember, I'm no longer the passive Shireen, right? So the passive Shireen wants to, the non-passive Shireen wants to speak up and say whatever I want to say. But I'm in a room full of children and other adults that I don't know. In that moment, Tina, I had to ask myself, time out. How am
Right.
I showing up right now? Am I showing up in a way that I'm going to be happy with? And then what do I really want? Well,
Mm.
I don't want to escalate this. I don't want to, going, the typical, let's have this, powwow in front of all these people that I don't know. Right. So, and these children. So it's kind of like in that moment, I had to pause. And that's the power of the pause. You
Mm.
pause and you internalize real quick. It's like in a split second. Am I behaving in a way that I want to behave right now? Am I showing up in a way that I want to show up right now? And you have to internalize that. Now, if you're fine with that, go right ahead and blow up in front of everybody. That's fine. But if you don't want that, and you care about your relationship with the other person, then you might pause and say, you know what? I'm not going to show up that way. I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to just not interact in that way. That
Mm.
takes practice. That
Yes.
takes you to,
Mm.
be the bigger person, some people might say, but it takes you, it forces you to think about how you want your relationship to be in the future. Do you
Right.
always want to be butting heads with the person? Do you
Mm.
always want to, every time you open your mouth, the person cringes because they don't know if you're coming, you're going to come at them with, verbal abuse, right? And, in crucial conversations, we call it verbal violence. Whenever someone wants to compel, coerce, threaten, use, language that's colorful, all of that is verbal violence. And
Mm.
we don't want that. That's not healthy. So if you're in a relationship with your spouse, your siblings, your children, and you find that most of the time, 90% of the time when you communicate, it's in that manner,
Mm.
that's not healthy. That's not going to lead you to results or to better relationships.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. I think we need a class. We need it a bit earlier. But I mean, I think you said a few things. I want to go back. When we started, you said crucial conversations. We have to, still have the conversation in a respectful manner and still be, understand the other person. Here's the thing. I feel like we have this, passive aggression with us, and I don't know how to even address it, but it's something that, like you said, is either you say it, I say something back, or you say it and I don't say anything, but then the next thing that you do that is not even equivalent to what happened, I just blow up and I just start acting up,
Yeah.
right? So in that way, how do I get that, like the practice? And who am I going to practice with? Is it going to be because the people I'm going to practice with are going to end up being burned? Then they're going to be the
Yeah.
people that I put all my. So how have you practically,
Yeah.
managed that and then practice through it for you
Yeah.
to get better at that and then have those conversations?
Yeah, it starts small, right? I always joke, and I tend to use this one a lot. I'm like, when you're at the grocery store and you're bagging your groceries, and there's a bagger at the end, and they're packing your eggs with the watermelon. I always tell my students, try some crucial conversations with that person, right? Because you're angry, your bagging style and their bagging style is different. And what's the risk? You're about to go home with some crushed eggs, right? And so
Absolutely.
how do you respectfully and honestly share your feedback with that bagger at the time? Now that is a
Mm.
of course, if that's your go-to go-to store and they see you all the time, but that's an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to have a crucial conversation with this person to respectfully, politely, and kindly say, I would prefer you put the eggs in a separate bag and the watermelon in another bag. Is that something we can do? Is that okay? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, ma'am, I could do that. Or you could say,
Mm.
I can handle my eggs on my own, right? So part of it, Tina, is being assertive.
What is
It,
assertive? Let me ask that one.
so
Assertive.
assertive is when you share what you want, your needs, but
Mhm.
you're willing to hear and be open to the needs of the other person. It's that
Mm.
win-win that you talked about earlier. right? So in assertive communication, I'm expressing my needs, but I'm also open to hearing your needs as well. So I care
Mhm.
about both. I care about my needs and your needs. In passive, I don't care about my needs at all. In passive aggressive, it's more of a manipulative style of
Right.
communicating, right?
Right.
Where I put a little ding, I kind of care, but I don't care. And of course, we know aggressive. Most of us know aggressive communication style, where
Mm.
it's just all about me. It's all about my needs and what I want, and I want to win. But assertive communication is win win. I care about you, and I also care about me. I'm going to get what I need, but I'm also going to see if I can get you what you need as well.
Wow. So I think, Shireen, I'm going to shift from the home to the workplace because I think there's one thing that I see, like for us in women of color, for people of color, moving up even in the corporate world and all that. Sometimes these skills are so important because we already cast in this whole, frame of being very passive aggressive, and we need to do that. But now I'm looking at something like an email situation, right, where it's, you have an email and it's really like it's something that you need to have a crucial conversation about. Is that something that I also email back that way, or do I mean, how do I start with heart in that
Yeah,
sense? Like when it's not like maybe in the home situation and it's
yeah,
different. How do I do
yeah.
that?
It's so funny. These skills can be used both in and out of the workplace, right? They could be used at home and in the workplace. So for an email, to me, emails are like, they're not that great because they're left to interpretation, right?
Yep.
They're left to like me figuring out what I think you might be saying and what your intentions are, right?
Yeah.
It's somewhat hard to read someone's intention through email. So when you say, what do I do with an email? Now you can, one of my thing is starting with curiosity. And with curiosity, it's asking questions. Did
Mm,
you mean to imply blah, 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 blah? Did you mean, right? Ask a question or help me understand when you said blah, 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 blah. What does that look, what does that mean to you? So it's asking those clarifying questions and
clarifying.
not being afraid to ask the question. This is one thing my husband's really good at. He's really good at asking questions. And I'm like, dude, don't you know that? He's like, no, no, I want to make sure that I'm on the same page as you are. So I'm going to ask the question. It may sound dumb to you, but I'm going to ask the question to make sure that you hear it and I
Right.
hear it and
Right.
we're both on the same page. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Mm,
Even if it's obvious, it's obvious only to me, or it might be obvious only to, excuse me, only to you. So we want to let's see, minimize the chance of it being misinterpreted, sorry, and ask the question. So in
right.
an email, you could, if you're looking at it, you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? What did they want me to do? You can ask a clarifying question and add, some other, information that may be missing from it, or
Mm,
you can agree with it, but ask, another clarifying question, whatever it looks like, but you can ask a question rather than jumping to conclusion. We as humans tend to assume and we think we know it, and that's the stories that we tell ourselves. But what are the
right.
facts? What did
Right.
you see? What did you hear that led you to believe that, right? So if you
Mm,
read something in an email, you can even reply back and say, okay, based on your email below, I am starting to interpret it as da 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 da. Am I wrong? Can you help me understand?
okay. Okay.
Then the person will be like, no, Tina, that's not what I meant. Or yes, that is what I meant.
Yeah. No, these are great skills, Shireen. I remember some of these tips from back in the day, and they are still good as gold today. I go back to them, like, can you help me understand? Is this
Mhm.
what you are saying? Can
Yep.
I think those are just simple, skills that we can apply every day, and
Yep.
even with normal relationships as to how we manage those through. But as we were talking about the crucial conversation, and we said, when we have these crucial conversations, that the emotions are high, the stakes are really high, and it takes one person who is ready to be that. I want to take a calm, approach to this, and I know what I want. I think I understand what I'm going to do here, and I want to have that conversation. So if I do that, and then the other person is still not ready to hear me, should I continue with my crucial conversation or should I just stop?
You should stop. You should stop, because that person is not ready, and there's something holding them back, and it's not for you to try to figure out, right? So you can come to me and say, Shreen, I really want to talk to you about XYZ. I'm like,
Right.
Tina, I don't have time right now. I really can't talk about that right now. Why do you want to talk about that? And you're like, well, and then you start going, I'm like, you know what, now's not a good time. Okay, can I revisit this later with you? Can I put some time on your calendar, or can we talk about it tomorrow? Sure, go ahead, right? So the
Mm,
person's just not ready for it, right? And so in the case of either work or your personal, it's the same thing. If they're not ready to have that conversation, you can't force it,
mm,
because it's just not going to go well. So they have to be in a place where they trust your intentions, which is
right.
why we say start with your intentions. Why do you want to have this conversation? Why is it important? So you want to share your good intent up front when you feel someone might not feel safe with you in terms of having that conversation. A lot of times people say step out of the content. So it's not about what you want to talk about, but then you have to be aware and say, okay, I notice each time I come to you to try to talk about X, you seem to not want to talk about it. You either say not right now, or you say maybe later, and then later comes and we never talk about it. I'm starting to feel, this is the story I'm telling. I'm starting to feel like you really don't want to talk about it,
Right.
or it's a topic that is bothering me, but it's not bothering you. So can you help me understand? Am I wrong? Am I seeing things incorrectly? Because this is how I'm seeing it. And then the person could be like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. And you could be like, so can I take a minute and say why you don't want to talk about it? Because it doesn't bother me. I don't want to talk about it. And then you, Tina, have to be at a point where you're okay with that.
Mm,
At some point, we have to let go. At some point we have to figure out when the person is just not there where we are. We might be ready, but they aren't, and we can't force that on people. And you can try to revisit it at another time, but using the facts that I just listed. Every time I bring it up, or Monday I brought it up, Tuesday I brought it up, you said later, or all, just use facts. And then you
mm.
could say, and what is it starting to make you feel? And then you say, okay, why don't we want to talk about this then?
So
Does that
Shireen,
help?
it helps. It helps. I think you said something right now that I think is important. You said we should use facts. And
Yes.
and that's one thing that I keep trying to tell, even with the kids when they have, something with their friends and they're all passionate about it and all that. I'm like, well, your emotions are too high. I don't think you're going to get your message across. But how do we use facts? Because I think that is something that's also a skill to learn, right?
Mhm.
You have to, because you're passionate about the thing. Even if you calm down, you're speaking about it, it's still there. You're still going to be passionate about it. But how do you stay with the facts so
Yeah.
that you don't go off and then start all these emotional things that makes it look unsafe to continue with the conversation?
Right. Yeah. So again, facts are, what did I see and
Mm,
hear, not what
mm,
I feel about what I saw and heard, right? So I'll give you an example. We were talking with my husband, and he had his laptop open and I had my laptop open. And at some point in the conversation, I don't know how, if I had said it, that we're going to use my computer, right? So at some point I lost track of the fact that I said we're going to use my computer. So we're talking and he's doing his thing. All of a sudden, during the course of the conversation, I see him slam his computer, his facial demeanor changed, and he looked upset to me, right? So immediately I could be like, dude, what's wrong? Why are you upset? Why did you close your computer? I could have started that way. But I paused and I said, what did I see and what did I hear? So I said to him, hey, I just noticed that you closed your computer in a very quick manner. Your facial expression also changed. You went from a smile to now your face looks very serious, and you're looking away. You're not looking at the computer anymore. Is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, everything's fine. You told me that you wanted to use your computer. I was like, oh, right. That's right. I did say that earlier. Totally forgot, right? So, but I used facts. Why? Because if I had
mm,
started out the first way, he would have probably gotten more defensive, because I'm now making assumptions about what I saw, that I think he's upset, I think he's angry, or why you had to slam your computer that way, right? I'm making the
Mm,
stories come to life in that way, which wasn't true. So I don't want to, what my husband always says to me, like, you don't want to project your feelings, your emotion onto other people. My feelings and emotion was that he was angry, but to him, he wasn't angry. He was just like, I'm closing it because you said you want to use yours. So instead of me projecting feelings onto the other person, we should refrain from saying those words until afterwards. So tell me, what did you see? What did you hear? And then you could tell the story. You could say, well, Shane, my husband's name is Shane. Shane, based on what I just saw, it leads me to believe that you're upset at me or something. I'm not sure. Are you upset? He's like, no, I'm not upset. So we have a more calmer conversation rather than him saying, why do you think I'm upset? I'm not upset. Well, you sound it, right?
ah, that one.
And
Oh
the same
boy.
thing at work, Tina, right? If you walk into someone's office and they quickly close their computer or they quickly put their phone away or whatever, and you come like, Tina, are you hiding something from me? The person's going to get defensive, right? They're going to be like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? But if you come in and say, hey, Tina, this is the second time when I walked into your office, I noticed that at the moment I walk in, you close your computer and you also quickly pick up your phone and you put it in a drawer. I am I missing something? I'm not trying to invade your privacy. Would you, and then you can have a conversation. Why? Because now the person's not defensive. They're more because now you're not attacking them. You're not labeling them. You're not telling them that
Mm,
they're a liar. They're hiding something. You're not using those words, those assumptions, those
mm.
conclusions. Judge that's the word I'm looking for, judgmental words. Always start with facts instead of starting with judgmental words. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. That makes and I see where the challenge is, you know, not being judgmental, just
Yeah.
being factual.
Yeah.
And that is hard. That
That
is
is hard.
hard
It takes
because
practice.
it
Yeah.
takes a lot of practice to just be objective enough to say, hey, this is what I've seen, this is what I heard, and this is I just wanted to check if that is correct. As
Exactly.
opposed to, I mean, it just comes out of you
It's
naturally.
human behavior to just dive in, like
Just
just
dive in, and then you just go in, and then you lose the whole battle and you don't get anything out of it. But
right.
it's something
Exactly.
that we keep doing over and over again.
Yep.
But we are coming up to the top of the hour, Shireen, believe it or not. And I wanted to just give you the chance to address a few of the things that we've already talked about. We've talked about that, being assertive and being honest, enough to talk about your feelings, and in a more respectful way. So crucial conversation is not really, like you said, going in and then just laying on everybody, but really being thoughtful, respectful, and everything. How have you, as you said at the beginning, leveraged this in your development as a mother, as a wife, as a worker, in your daily, how do you incorporate that?
Yeah.
Are there some, phrases that you've had to learn to use commonly? Well, what is it that
Yeah.
makes it work that we
Yeah.
can also start doing from today to help us, start, thinking about it? Like when we think about it, there's a phrase that comes to mind that we can quickly go to and borrow and say, okay, help me understand,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good question, and I'm laughing because I'm trying to think. Do I even use a phrase? But you know what? Lately for me, it's like, what's the what can I do right now to be less stressed, right? And
Mhm.
I've been trying not to be stressed, right? And we as women, women of color, we take on everything and we don't know how to say no to stuff, and I've been learning the art of saying no. So that's one thing,
Mhm.
right? But let me bring up, like, for my teenager, I have a almost 15-year-old, and I have to say, a lot of times when my husband and I are going back and forth, I picture her. What is it that I want her to see in a healthy, good relationship? Because again, they're imitating, and I recognize that earlier on, that my kids are picking up like how I talk and how I act, right? Because that's what kids do. And I'm like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I need to address that. I need to fix the way I show up. And so that was something in I had to internalize that. So for
Mm,
me, when I'm having a conversation, especially like with my 15-year-old, and it gets crucial and the emotions are there, I have to remember what is it that I want her to walk away with, right? And so how are we going to do this? And do all conversations go well? No. Sometimes
mm,
we both end up going our separate ways because we reached an impasse. We reach a place where it's just we're butting heads. We're saying one thing, like it's just not going. And so you have to learn to stop and recognize that it's not going anywhere and maybe take a break. So for me, it's really me when lately, especially with crucial conversations with the 15-year-old, it's around how am I showing up? What is it that I want? And if I keep that mantra in my head, what is it I want? What is it I want? Well, I want to have a good relationship with my daughter. I want to teach her how to communicate better. I want to show her not to shut down and walk away and go to silence. I want her to be able to be assertive, right? So, what
mm,
is it that I want? And remember, I have 3 girls. So I'm like, okay, these girls, I want them to be strong Black women here in America, right? And so, how do I help them get there? So I don't
mm,
really have any catchphrases. It's just been over time repeating and practicing it. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well. And I say, what worked? What didn't work? And how do
mm,
I do this better? So if I have a conversation with my husband and it just didn't go well, I'm like, okay, Shireen, what went wrong there? And a lot of times as humans, we don't take time to reflect.
yeah.
At the end of the day, when you're laying in your bed, just reflect on the day. Reflect on how did I do today? What worked? What did I like? What did I love about today? And
Mm,
what could I do better tomorrow? And if one
mhm,
of those things is your conversation with someone, you may not have the chance to repeat that conversation because it's gone, it's done, but
mhm.
you can do better next time, right? You can
Right.
say, okay, I got an attitude with that person, or I used words that I didn't want to use. Maybe this time I'm gonna be more mindful of
Mhm.
my choice of words or my tone. I get yelled at for my tone a lot. So I have to be very mindful about my tone, right? And so it's all about growth within
Yeah.
and you wanting to grow.
Amazing, amazing. You said growth, and we are this month for us a masterpiece. We are reading a book called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth from John Maxwell. And I think that's a great thing because yesterday I was talking about the law of the mirror and making sure that you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're adding, saying you are valuable so you can add value to yourself and add
Yep.
value to people.
Yep.
And I think that is so important that we just make it a point to grow. Again,
Yes.
understood that we are coming from different backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
very challenging sometimes to learn something new. And that's why I am so grateful that you said for 10 years in your marriage, you were also, the same way, just trying to make it work. So
Yep.
you learn some of these skills. And so I am excited that we get to do this class, and we have only 25 seats. Is that going to be working? 25? Can we open up 25 or 15? 25, right?
25. Yeah, you can go up to 25 because of the activities that are in this course. You don't want to make it too big because then you run out of time.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So we're going to open up this class for June, and I'm going to be sending out the registration and then all that good information by the end of next week for us to start registering. But you want to be part of it. You've had some of it. We couldn't talk about all the tools and everything you need. This is a class you have to go to, even if you think you know how to communicate. I'm sure you do the first session, you're like, oh my, I think I need to work on myself a little bit more. And I love the fact that crucial conversation really starts with you. It starts with
Yes.
you, not the other person who you should have the conversation with. It's really you. And if you can manage yourself, if you can work on the things that you have to work, then you can think about having that conversation. So it is a great class. I am so excited we can offer that. And hopefully in the future we can do emotional intelligence as a class as well. Coming soon. We have to wait on that one.
Absolutely.
But we will have Shireen again in the next not the next week, the following week. She'll be here to talk to us about how do we communicate in different generations with different people, different groups. I think that is a good one. You have to really stay tuned as we come back together. But thank you so much, Serene. I don't think we had any questions, but if we do, I will follow up and have those questions answered. But definitely sign up for the class. You can ask Shireen all the questions in that class because you have a lot of time for that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
and more practice. Like the class will get you more hands-on. You get to, go in breakouts and just dive into the content a little bit more. And one of the things I love about the class, Tina, the pre-work, which is bring a crucial conversation. Bring a conversation that you've been ignoring, that you should be having. Bring that to the class because then we're going to apply the tools and the tips and the skills to that conversation.
All
So by
right.
the end of day 3, you should be ready to go have that conversation with now, with the tools and the tips that you have to go
Mhm.
at least try it, right? And
Right.
see how it feels, how it sounds, to start with facts, ask a question, right? And get the person to into dialogue with you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all again for joining today. I am Tina, and I am so, so glad we get to connect today on Crucial Conversations. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and we'll come back and talk about, communicating within different generations, still using these tools that we have to be able to have a good communication, good relationships. This is the month of relationship. Make it work. Make sure that you're doing the work on yourself as well. And I believe that we'll all do it together. We'll be good. Have a great rest of your evening, afternoon, depending on where you join us from. And we'll talk again soon. All right. Bye.